We are unified in keeping the A's rooted in Oakland in a way that protects our port, protects our community, and protects the taxpayers, is responsible. And we believe in this vision of a world-class waterfront ballpark district that will not only be something that will make the A's and Oaklanders proud, but will generate amazing community benefits, public parks, affordable housing, good union jobs, as well as much needed public infrastructure improvements. We are very close in full agreement with the A's. I know that it was disappointing today that what was voted on by the council did not have full consensus from the team. But I assure you, we are very close. The primary difference is that Oakland is standing firm on community benefits and the sources for funding them. But we will continue to work with the A's to negotiate all differences and to bring as quickly as is practical and responsible a binding term sheet, a development agreement, as well as the final environmental impact report. And that will be the next critical milestone in realizing this incredible vision that we hold for a waterfront ballpark district. With that, I'm happy to take any questions specifically about what the council approved today and the next steps. I think, Justin, if you want to direct traffic, as well as request people to, I think, put their names in the chat or use the hand raise function.
Zenny was first to the quick, so we'll go ahead, Zenny.
Oh, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, how are you doing,
hey,
Zenny?
Great, how are you all doing? Great to see you all. Hey, Libby, how you doing? Hey,
good.
Two questions. First of all, a number of us are concerned, I say us, myself, not just Dave Caval, but also Mike Jacob of the Longshoremen, are concerned about the process that introduced this resolution seemingly at the last minute. And in my 33 years, in various views of this, from mayor's aide to intern, all the other stuff, you get buy-in from the developer and the people that you're working with, regardless of the size that they're on. Did anybody stop and say, hey, we need to contact the A's and the others to say this is what we're going to do before we did it? Thanks. Oh, and by the way, that's the first question. The second question has to do with a really nagging tax increment financing issue. The council doesn't understand that we don't have a full 45-year tax increment read with an explanation of the bond issue, the debt coverage ratios, and then that could frame and should frame your conversation with the athletics and the community. There's enough to help the community, but that's not happening. And the numbers that are there by that San Francisco consultant, they made gigantic errors. So there's a number of errors here that really need to be straightened out. I'm asking, are you open to straightening those out? And can you explain the resolution issue? Thank you, Ms. Mayor. Appreciate you.
Sure. I want to say that, remember, we are at a particular moment in this process. The A's put out their proposed term sheet back in April, late April. We have been in constant negotiations with them since that time. We did produce a formal counter proposal, and I personally have been engaged in negotiations with the A's as recently as yesterday. So yes, we have been in constant negotiation with the A's. And based on those negotiations, based on our shared values and vision, we believe the A's can and should accept the terms that the City Council approved today. This is a non-binding agreement. We respect the A's desire to get to a binding development agreement as quickly as possible. And so this sets the framework. And of course, it was preceded by a lengthy workshop on July 8th that also explained a lot of the background information. I also suggest everyone goes to the FAQ section on the City of Oakland's website. That should help explain some of the background. Zenny, with respect to the tax increment financing, because that our traditional tool of redevelopment is no longer available to cities, it's made this project much more complicated. We are proposing to use a new tool called the Enhanced Infrastructure Financing District in combination with a community financing district. These are relatively new tools that have not been used extensively, but they have been used somewhat, and that is what we're proposing to do. The full details, as well as additional analysis and economic projections, will be available as we move towards the development agreement, the DA, the binding agreement. And we are excited about ensuring that these are project-generated revenues. These are revenues that, but for the project, the city would not have. And so we want to be clear, because people are talking a lot about what is the public investment. These are dollars generated by the project itself. And these tools, like an enhanced infrastructure financing district, were designed to allow cities to bond against these revenues so that we can make the improvements that will create much larger revenues for years to come that will benefit Oakland and the whole region.
Good. I'm going to come back to you, Zenny, and read a few questions before that. One here, Mayor, from Keith Burbank at Bay City News. Have the A's said they will continue to negotiate, and will the city council meet again before the summer recess?
I believe the city council has another council meeting scheduled. I am not aware of any plans to take this issue up prior to the council recess, but you would need to direct that question to the city council president. We have and will continue to welcome further negotiations with the A's. That is how we are going to get this very complex deal done, is by engaging constantly in negotiations. So we are excited to get back to that negotiating table to continue to flesh out the details that will be required in the next step, which is the binding development agreement, as well as continue to work out any outstanding differences. We are always going to be available to talk through those differences.
And KRWN is asking, what are the primary differences between today's term sheet and
you know what, I will talk about some of the primary differences between today's term sheet and the original proposal by the A's back in April, is that this proposal relies on only one infrastructure financing district. That is the project site itself. That is to ensure that the project pays for the project, that the increased value that is being generated from other parts of West Oakland or downtown, that those will continue to benefit the city and pay for the much needed services, but that the project revenues themselves are what we will rely on to invest in making this project happen, and the community benefits that need to be part of the project. Another significant difference is the commitment around affordable housing. We propose a 30% commitment, with 15% of that on the Howard Terminal site itself. And then finally, there is clarity that actually, let me think about this for a second. The other piece about the affordable housing is that the A's are meeting their obligations under the city's impact fees, as well as state redevelopment law. Those are some of the primary differences. The one EFID, the reliance on the state laws and impact fees with regard to affordable housing. And then one significant difference, and I want to acknowledge that this is the primary difference between where the city council and I am and where the A's are, is the degree and source for funding a community benefits fund. The proposal that we've put forward is through a condominium transfer fee, as well as a in lieu use of the transportation impact fee, which the A's have requested we waive, and that those be the funding source for a community benefits fund that would actually be controlled by community stakeholders for the 66-term lease. So that's probably the biggest difference that we have to date. And the other things are things that we do believe the A's are in agreement with.
I go over here to JR. I believe that's JR Stone. JR, you ready?
Yes. Thanks, Mayor. And thanks for hearing my question. I was just curious. I know Dave Cavell in the past has said that a vote for the city plan was a vote against their plan and wasn't in agreement with that plan last Friday. What's changed since Friday? Has anything changed since Friday?
Yes, there were some significant changes since Friday. One of those changes is the city did make it clear, and this was in the A's original proposal in April, that the city will assume responsibility for the off-site transportation and infrastructure improvements. We want to recognize that we are fortunate to be in a unique moment where this country is making unprecedented investments in infrastructure. And so we believe that we can, in this moment, take on that commitment while still being true to our values of protecting the taxpayers, the city's general fund, the county's general fund, because we are counting on the county's participation, as well as our port operations. So that is a big change that was in today's amended resolution that was not in the proposal published Friday. We also increased the affordable housing commitment from 30% to 35%. That was an improvement that the council felt very strongly about. So those were, I would say, the two largest distinctions between Friday's version and what got passed today.
And Zenny, let's go back to you.
Yeah, sure. Hey, thank you very much. On my show, the A's president said that he was actually open to having a development partner involved and that he would accept actually changing from the enhanced infrastructure approach to, for example, the Community Revitalization and Investment Authority Act, which actually is more like the old redevelopment system we used to have, right? And it has actually a better requirement for affordable housing, which might be more to what you would like. Have you had those conversations with the A's president? Are you also open to, since nothing really much has been done since SB 293 Skinner, in terms of negotiating with, for example, the County of Alameda, we would be able to move forward in a way that's mutually beneficial?
Zenny, those issues have not come up in my negotiations or discussions with the Oakland A's. To date, the primary tax increment financing vehicle has been an enhanced infrastructure financing district. But of course, we're always open to other suggestions and to explore other tools that might help us reach our mutual goals. I see a question from Dan to be more specific about the differences on affordable housing. So yes, we did increase the affordable housing commitment from 30 to 35%. Like Friday, we are requiring that 15% of that be on site, on the actual Howard Terminal site. That would be roughly about 450 units of affordable housing as part of the total 3,000 proposed housing units on the Howard Terminal site.
And Bill Shakin, I believe, has your hand up.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to ask, in the hour since the meeting ended, have you spoken with anybody from the A's or Major League Baseball to see where they're at on this?
Not since the meeting has ended, but
Okay.
I'm sure we'll be talking again soon. Again, we've enjoyed very good open lines of communication with the A's. We share a vision for a world-class ballpark. And I believe that when the A's say that they want to remain rooted in Oakland, that means committed to our values. And that means being serious about our community benefits.